Good evening and welcome to another exciting travel and tourism show here on Star FM, sounding good all the time. I'm Mazwi Shamu. The past few weeks, we have been looking at tourism in the country during last year's festive season, and it was interesting to hear perspectives from our fellow Zimbabweans living abroad, sharing their Zimbabwean experience. An experience they said they thoroughly enjoyed, not just because they were back home visiting friends and relatives, but also because they had missed sunny Zimbabwe and the vibe and happiness and excitement that the people of Zimbabwe bring. The past 2 weeks, Dr. Karikoga Kaseke, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority, shared his Christmas experience too. And he also outlined the vision for tourism in Zimbabwe this year as well as for the next 100 days. One of the goals on the list is promoting domestic tourism in Zimbabwe. So, in the studio tonight, we have Sam Nyaude, who is a travel writer and magazine publisher. He is the pioneer of the Visit Zimbabwe online Zimbabwe tourism and hospitality marketing platform. Sam is here to tell us and hopefully whet our appetite on destinations he has been visiting since his last appearance on the Travel and Tourism Show. As a writer and traveler, he says his intention is to inspire and enable travel within Zimbabwe. So Sam, welcome to the show.
Hello Mazwi, how are you?
Very good, thanks. It's so good having you back on the show again.
Yes, it's good to be back on the show in such exciting times in Zimbabwe.
That's right. We are Star FM, sounding good all the time. Send your comments and contributions to the WhatsApp platform 263-734-610-613 or follow me on Twitter and Facebook at Mazwi Shamu. Sam, tell us. During Christmas, everyone else who's been on the show since the beginning of the year has been telling us what they were up to during the Christmas holiday. What have you been up to? Or maybe just tell us, what have you been up to since you were last here on the show?
Okay, festive season they call it. For me it was a very hectic time frame as I went down to Nyanga for the skywalk again, and it was a wonderful time, quite some rain in the area, but still beautiful and amazing scenery at that time of the year. So on Christmas Day, I was actually traveling to Bulawayo in transit to Victoria Falls. So for me, this Christmas holiday, I think, saw me in two of Zimbabwe's most happening destinations right now in tourism.
Yes, that's true. Tell us, has the Skywalk been officially opened now?
Skywalk has been officially opened, and there's a lot of traffic of local Zimbabweans, particularly going up there to check it out. It's an amazing experience.
And confirm it is the highest zip line. Is that right?
Highest zip line in the world.
In the world?
Yes.
In the world. Wow. Up in Nyanga.
Yes, Nyanga over Mutarazi, Africa's second highest waterfall.
Wow.
Yes.
It must be really scenic, actually. Of course, I don't see myself doing the zip line itself. I don't think I'll do that in my sane condition. Only because I'm scared of heights.
Okay.
But it must be really pretty and scenic.
Why don't you go there to do a fear factor kind of thing? Get over your fears and have a thrilling experience while at it. In the most beautiful part of, I think, Zimbabwe. See, because you're looking into the Honde Valley, which is amazingly stunning, if there's anything like that for description. Just about a kilometer up the road from where the zipline is, there's what is called God's Window. Beautiful view of the Honde Valley, just a cliff. You won't even realize that is what is behind a thicket, because there's a thicket, and just as you step into the thicket, there's this huge depression of beauty that gives you a visual of the whole of the Honde Valley.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. It does sound pretty, and I think maybe for that reason I will try it out.
You should. You should.
And you said Vic Falls over Christmas.
Yes.
What was your experience, Vic Falls over Christmas, in terms of numbers? Were there a lot of people there?
I wasn't in Vic Falls on Christmas Day per se. I was on my way there. Okay. But at that time of the year, huge numbers of people start trickling, actually flooding into Victoria Falls for the annual carnival. So yes, it gets crazy. It's so exciting. It's full of life for quite a number of days, just up until the 2nd of January. So it's crazy. It's crazy. 3 nights of the actual carnival, but it's more than a week of partying for most people.
Wow. And people talk about the carnival. What exactly will be happening? Is it music and dancing, or do artists come through? What is the excitement?
The excitement is music and dancing, like you said. Lots of great music. This year's highlights, I think, for most people were Black Coffee, Mikasa, and our very own Amara Brown. So a lot of music over 3 days. I mean, up to the AM every one of those days, and the biggest party obviously being the New Year's Eve.
Okay, so Dr. Kaseke also mentioned when he was here that he was in Vic Falls the same time that the carnival was happening over the Christmas season.
Okay.
And he said the numbers were unbelievable.
Yes.
He said in the hotel that he happened to be staying in,
Yep.
it was so packed that if you did not get to breakfast on time, you would have breakfast for lunch,
Okay.
basically.
It's interesting to note that I just come from Nyanga, where most operators that I managed to interact with were fully booked over the whole of the festive season, and the same thing happening in Victoria Falls over the same period is actually a promising sign for Zimbabwe tourism. I know as an estimate, I know clearly over 6,000 people attended the New Year's Eve party.
Wow.
In Victoria Falls. So that's almost 6,000 beds, or let's talk about 4,000 beds in Victoria Falls.
Wow. Wow. So as someone who's been in the industry for a long time and very much involved in the tourism industry in Zimbabwe and domestic tourism and all of that, why do you think our numbers hit the roof like this?
Well, currently I think Zimbabwe is a very exciting destination for most people. Like I said when we started off the show, that these are interesting times in Zimbabwe, especially for the tourism industry. I was speaking to one of the players a few days ago from Victoria Falls, and one thing that he highlighted is that Zimbabwe, or especially Victoria Falls, the way business is conducted is going to have to change. Most of us domestic tourists have a tendency of booking a night before, like I'm going to Victoria Falls tomorrow. Hi Sam, is there any way I can get accommodation in Victoria Falls? And we run around and find accommodation. So this particular player was saying, with the way things are going, you would have to book your holiday 3 months in advance for Victoria Falls.
Wow.
Yes.
That's exciting, actually.
That's exciting.
That's money.
Yes, money
for the
too.
country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Mangunjga said, foreign currency and tourism as an exporter.
Definitely. Absolutely. So you've mentioned Nyanga, you've mentioned Victoria Falls, you mentioned Bulawayo. Those are some of the top destinations that we have in Zimbabwe. Just a few days ago, Mr. Chidzidzi, who's the COO of ZTA, was speaking to Star FM News, and he was talking about, or he was encouraging people to visit other places that aren't necessarily those huge top Zim destinations, but smaller places in and around our areas. And he gave an example of Lomboshawa,
Yes.
which is close to Harare.
Close to Harare, yeah.
Can you tell us about these other small destinations that people can take advantage of, maybe on day trips and
Yes.
not necessarily on,
Long excursions.
a short break or
Yeah.
whatever it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned Domboshawa. It's one of my go-to places. I make sure I go to Domboshawa every year, at least once. I can go there several times, but I try to make sure that every year I at least pass by there once a year. Just on Friday, I was in Mbare, Harare's older suburb, where I was taken through a fascinating tour of the history of Mbare. I've always passed through Pioneer Cemetery, but never had I imagined the stories behind all those graves in that place. There's actually some amazing storytelling that's going on in that area. And that's, for me, is one example where people, especially us locals, need to go and check out more often. You've mentioned Domboshawa. Just today I was talking to my sister about botanical gardens, because I asked her about what can we do. She asked what can we do that's her concern was Zimbabwe tourism, domestic tourism, is not happening very well because of price. And I cited to her, like, botanical gardens probably cost $2 for entry, and that eliminates the price factor. But then she has never been there, and if only these places were known to people, or were more known and accessible to people, then I think that would increase our chances of having people going out on these short breaks. I get calls almost every day about places like you're asking. If it's Harare environs, we've got so many small game parks around the city. We have open spaces like Lake Chiveru, we have Cleveland Dam, we have the Ballantine Park. We have so many places that people can just go and have fresh air.
Found some of the things that you mentioned, they're quite interesting. The Mbare visit, for example. Yes. That is what I think they've categorized and called township tourism now.
Yes.
And it's interesting that you should say that, because many of us are actually living in and around tourism attractions, but we have no clue,
no idea
what they mean or what they symbolize. And these are the things that we need to be embracing.
Yes.
So you also mentioned the botanical gardens and the cost factor that is involved with that. I think one of the things we may need to get away from is the fact that you need to save up hundreds and hundreds of dollars before I can actually go on holiday, when there are all these different places that are in and around us. I think we must learn to enjoy ourselves again and just appreciate what we have around us. So as someone who's marketed the destination, what, in your view, are we lacking in our domestic tourism market? What are the issues that the Ministry of Tourism and our national tourism governing body, the ZTA, can look into as they promote domestic tourism?
I think one very key important thing, one key thing you've just mentioned is the need for a shift in mindset from locals. Ask around in any town that you go through. I was in Marundere yesterday, and I asked a few people where I could get a decent plate of sadza. And of the 4 people I asked, no one really knew where we could get sadza from. So it's these little things that if we educate our communities about the value around the tourism and hospitality products around them, then they too can sort of become local guides.
So that's a lack of marketing, isn't it?
Yes. It's if we do not know what we have, then how can we sell it?
Right.
So go to Victoria Falls and ask, where can I get a courier, for instance? And people, if they don't go to town to where the market is, then they wouldn't know where one can acquire such things. So we need to educate actually. We need to educate the audience, the communities, on the tourism facilities and opportunities available around their communities. And that, once we have that shift in mindset, I think that would be a big step towards promoting lots more tourism. Issues around cost, issues we cannot run away from. Mm-hmm. Zimbabwe is a very expensive destination for most things. But then I think there's also opportunity in the lower end markets where people can make budget tours, from accommodation, meals, even access. I know you can sleep in something that's not very popular. I mean, in Zimbabwe is the backpackers and dormitory kind of accommodation, where tourists can stay at a place for $10 a night, where you have a decent bed and a shower and you can get your food, self-catering. Mm-hmm. So that instantly cuts costs by significant dollars. Yeah. And then,
so for me, issues to do with costs and things like that, I think Dr. John Mangujika has addressed, and Minister of Finance and Economic Planning has also said that he will see what he can do to try and help out the tourism industry a little bit. But for me, some of my burning issues have been basic things like toilets, like bins,
Yes.
like water.
Yeah.
And as much as I know, other ministries are also directly responsible
Yes.
for these. What are you, as the people who are marketing tourism in Zim, what are you saying to some of these authorities, or to, as a tourism body, what are you doing about it so that it gets fixed? Because things like a toilet, I can't visit a destination and enjoy myself, even if it's a day trip, if there aren't any proper toilets.
That's true. Okay, that is a big issue. It's something that we're actually talking about. Like I said, on our township tourism experience, where this can take you 4 hours, and probably by then you need to use the loo, but there is no decent facility. So that again comes to like ZCT, the industry representative board, where the industry representative council, where it's difficult for us publics, where if you go for a service station, for instance, they cannot give you a bathroom. You go to the food court areas, the toilets are locked unless you have a receipt. So it's such things that we need to change as industry. I mean, the public toilets should be for the publics, I think.
So have you made noise about it? Have you approached them about it, or is it something that you can actually put on the agenda as well?
I think it's something that totally needs to be put high on the agenda.
Yeah.
In recent meetings with the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority and the Zimbabwe Council of Tourism, the issue of toilets was actually raised. It's not only in cities, but if I'm traveling to Mutare, for instance, I need to have a place where I can stop over and freshen up, use the bathroom, and stretch up. Probably get a snack as well.
We are Star FM, sounding good all the time, and we are speaking to Sam Nyaude, who is a digital marketing expert specializing in domestic tourism. People may want to know more about domestic tourism, Sam, or follow you. Are you on social media?
Yes. We are on Facebook as Visit Zimbabwe, on Instagram as visitzimbabwe.info, and on Twitter as Visit Zimbabwe. And we have a website, visitzimbabwe.info, where we are disseminating info on tourism and travel packages in Zimbabwe.
That's great. So we can follow you on those platforms and find out some of the great places that you are visiting when you are visiting them. Just before I let you leave, can you tell me some, maybe 3 or 4 destinations that are must visits as day trips?
Okay, Matopos.
Day trip.
For those in Bulawayo.
Okay.
Yes. Matopos for those in Bulawayo is an amazing escape. Recently spoke to Kuimbashiri for those in Harare. They've got new bird stock, which I'm actually going to check out this weekend.
Okay.
They have a new sort of ferry on Lake Shore as well.
Oh.
So that's something I'm keen to go see. And you've already mentioned Domboshawa. It's one of those places that's so peaceful. You can go up there and have a braai for those in Harare. Chipangali for those in Bulawayo. There's a wonderful game park, animal sanctuary that you can visit and with your kids. That's more family oriented. Chegutu. There's a beautiful cafe on the Bulawayo Road.
Wow.
That is on the corner of Chinwe Road and Bulawayo Road. So that is something else you can consider if you just want to drive out, have a light lunch, and yes, get some fresh air.
Wow. Sam, it's always a pleasure having you in the studio. Listeners, as you can hear, he knows his country. He knows his destinations. And like he's mentioned, there are plenty of places to visit in and around Zimbabwe for just a day, just a couple of hours, just an afternoon. take advantage of what we have in this country. Let's embrace the tourism that we have. Let's, enjoy our beautiful country, Zimbabwe. Please send through your questions and contributions on 263-734-610-613 or on my Facebook page, Mazwi Shamu, and Twitter @Mazwi Shamu. Sam, thank you so much for coming through.
Most welcome.